I think the thing is, look after your own territory is my thoughts. Take from them what you can. Obviously you can share learning, share brands, what's trending, etc. But I think just focus on what's happening in your own back door. And that also means not looking all the time at competitors here. It's like your customer, your reason for being, and what we can do at David Jones is probably the thing I stay most focused on is every day, am I and my team doing the right thing to give the customer the right product?
Hello and welcome. I'm Elizabeth Formosa, the founder of Fashion Equipped, a Melbourne-based strategic growth advisory working with clients globally. On this podcast, I sit down with fashion founders, industry leaders and innovators, all who are shaping the future of fashion. We explore what it really takes to build and scale dynamic, profitable and resilient fashion businesses in a complex and competitive landscape. We go deep into leadership and mindset, financials, brand, product, sourcing, sales and marketing strategy. And we do not skim over the commercial reality required to grow profitably and sustainably. These are honest conversations grounded in real experience from people who are building, evolving, and growing businesses every day. If you want to refine your strategy, strengthen your structure, lead your business with more clarity, and continue to grow, you're in the right place. Let's do this together. Let's take your fashion business to the next level. Bridget, welcome to the Fashion Business Mindset podcast.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. It's a pleasure to be here.
Now, Bridget, let's wind the clock back and go way back to the beginning. You built an incredible career spanning buying, planning, merchandising, retail operations and brand strategy, and no doubt so much more, both across the UK and Australia. What did those early days look like, and how did your career evolve into the role you're in today?
So coming from the UK, I was born in Manchester, which is an industrial city for textiles. So apt that would be where I started off. And after traveling after uni, I joined the Burton Group, which owned Debenhams department store. So this was back in the 90s. So I was very lucky. It was a time where the Burton Group was a great organisation, big organisation. And it was also the owner of Debenhams, which was kind of like the jewel in the crown of the Burton Group. That was later sold off, so I worked solely for Debenhams as a department store, but their actual trainee programs, or the way that we were all trained, was absolutely fantastic, I have to say. It was, at the time, seemed hard because you couldn't progress without completing every assignment, every part of work, and these kind of progress books that we had that took you to the next level. So it was incredibly structured, incredibly disciplined, and in times incredibly frustrating, I would say. But it was something, I look back on it and I think that was a great discipline to have, and really set my foundations in buying, both technically and through the buyers, incredible buyers that I got to work with at Debenhams. So I was also very lucky that at a very early stage of my career, I was involved in what was a very new initiative to the high street then, designers at Debenhams. So that was collaborating long-term with designers such as Jasper Conran, John Rocha, and John Richmond. A lot of these designers that were hugely successful at the time and chose to partner, being more commercial and making fashion more acceptable and more accessible to more people. So that was a really great opportunity for me. And my first role as a junior buyer was actually as junior buyer of designers at Debenhams, and I tended to get the younger designers then, and the more up and coming ones that we developed. And it was a great atmosphere, brilliant place to work. I absolutely loved it. I worked my way up from being a junior buyer to a buyer to an established buyer through all the levels that you have to go through, and found myself there for 12 years actually, which I really, really loved. And the only reason I left Debenhams in the UK was I took the opportunity with my family. I was going on my second maternity leave, and that balance of family and career, and decided we decided to take the opportunity to spend our second maternity leave in Australia. So actually arrived in Australia with a 3-month-old and a 2.5-year-old, and 12 months ahead of us of really enjoying what Australia and maybe New Zealand was going to bring, with neither one of us working, mum marking 2 children. So we thought this was great.
Wow.
And then 6 months, less than 6 months into that journey, which was fabulous, I was approached by Maya, who were looking for somebody to head up all of their product development for women's wear, intimate apparel, Miss Shop, etc. So I was very fortunate to be offered that role, and we moved to Melbourne. And so I moved to Maya and started my career in Australia, which has been 20 years. And yeah, never looked back really. I've been very fortunate. I've been given some great opportunities and work for some great businesses.
What a journey in the industry. And I can see when you talk about those early days how the fond memories come back. I'm sure, no doubt, it was, it was challenging times. It would have been demanding growing your career. But I don't think organisations kind of work like they used to in the old days. As you said, you started as buyer's admin, then buyer's assistant. So you've pretty much been through every single role in your career trajectory. So no doubt you can relate to your team around you too, and what it takes to kind of build up to, build your career and build up to a leadership role. I was in buying as well, and I was a buying assistant and then a trainee buyer. So when you tell these stories, it takes me back. It takes me back to those days. So we're very fortunate that you landed on our shores, Bridget, and you've had such an amazing career. So after spending more than 3 decades in fashion retail, what do you believe are the biggest shifts that you've seen in the way that customers shop, brands operate, and retailers compete today?
There's been huge shifts. You look back and you think we saw everything through magazines and going to the local stores or going into, big cities for retail. And now that has completely shifted to social media is driving it, and celebrity or influencers or your friends are driving your reasons for shopping. And you can shop anywhere around the world from anywhere. So the accessibility of it has absolutely changed enormously. I'd also say people are less loyal. There's always something new. So that loyalty that we used to have has definitely moved, and people are really now influenced by lots of different things, whether it's the convenience of where they're shopping, the value of where they're shopping, or the experience of how they're shopping. So that's all happening. And then obviously digital. I mean, that complete move into digital has changed everything really from when I first started my career, so that people can literally be sat anywhere and shop anywhere, anything from around the world. So I'd say so much has changed, except the one thing that you've got to get the product right for the customer.
Yeah, get the right products at the right price, right place, right time. That kind of never changes, does it?
Yeah.
So many things that you've mentioned there, and so many different experiences you've had on every phase of how the industry has evolved. Now, today you oversee beauty, women's wear, footwear and accessories at David Jones. Can you take us behind the scenes and share a little bit about what that role actually involves and how you balance leadership with customer demand and brand strategy and product and trends and commercial performance, all the things that are thrown at you on a daily basis?
I think for me, in all that time, that love of product and discovering something new has never, ever shifted. Like I can get as excited about something now as I did when I first started out. I think the difference for me has been the need to build a really high functioning team. And that is probably the thing that over my career, I'm the most proud of, that I've worked with some incredible people, both, as leaders to me, but also really building teams that I think when you trust your team and you empower them, then all of the things you do on a daily basis, you can do. So now, much as I manage the big portfolio of David Jones, it is done because we built strong teams within those businesses. And, whether we're doing buys or meeting new brands or working out budgets or looking through trends, all of those things we do. We get to go off to great, places to look at fashion shows. We get to do, look at other retailers around the world and see best practice. We get to, experience different events with brands that really talk about customer experience as well. So the exposure to everything, and sometimes it can be a bit annoying when people say it, but probably I am still very curious about things, and I do really still enjoy experiencing different ways of viewing how you can service a customer, and innovation in there, whether when you could get really excited about what the Bon Marché do with where they do their pop-up shops, where it's really, really fabulous, and Selfridge is doing their corner shop, or you go in and you discover in a small store something fantastic that they've done that you can bring back, and you're still wanting to photograph something and capture that, and you're still wanting to find something new and appreciating that it's not all been done before, I suppose.
Yeah, I love that. I love that you're still curious, you're still passionate. It sounds like both the commercial side and the creative side. And we do see you appearing around the world every now and then. So you did pop up at the LMA show. I think it was in Menorca, which looked absolutely fabulous. How much of your time is spent traveling, Bridget, and how important is that? You've mentioned some global retailers there and you're watching what they're doing, and that no doubt would inspire you and your team. How much of your time is spent, I guess, traveling around the world these days?
Look, I actually probably don't travel as much as people think. It's a very commercial role that I have at David Jones. So a lot of my travel is making sure between Melbourne and Sydney that I'm there for trade meetings and budgets and doing all of those. But what is a bit more visual is when you do it. So I've been absolutely, truly honoured with this role, to travel twice a year and do fashion weeks, be it in the US, doing part of New York, some of London, pretty much all of Milan and Paris. And so I've done that for 10 years and been incredibly fortunate to, experience some incredible events along the way. But also during those times, we're not just doing fashion shows, we're meeting with the brands, we're building partnerships, we're looking at retail stores, we've got meetings on the commercials as we land brands. So in between those shows, there's a lot of making sure you've got flats and you can get to the next meeting. And they're particularly long days. And then back to the LMA show, which you mentioned, like that's a few and far between experience, and probably the first time outside of the season I've gone to a fashion show, but also truly honoured that an Australian brand was doing a show internationally. And what the actual show was absolutely incredible, beautifully done, incredible brand. I think Australia should be really proud that, following in the path of what the hugely successful Zimmerman brand has done in building an international, we're now starting to see lots more Australian fashion brands resonate with different companies around the world, different department stores and stores that want to stock Australian fashion. So they did a fantastic job. I think they did a great job of putting Australia on the map, fashion-wise, internationally. And I think what I really enjoyed about that was being with the other retailers. So Harrods, Saks, Harvey Nichols, everyone, Dubai, Altair Dubai. And just the camaraderie between retailers was actually really, really nice. There was it was such a lovely atmosphere with peers and sharing information. And actually, for me, a really good opportunity to say, other great brands that are working for us here in Australia that we could share with the Nordstroms, the Saks, the Selfridges, and say you really, should try these brands as well, which I think Australian Fashion Week has been doing a tremendous job of.
Amazing. Well, it looked fabulous. And as you said, socials is the highlight reel. There's a lot of hard work that goes on behind the scenes. I love that you've mentioned, the opportunity to collaborate and discuss business with global retailers. Are there many opportunities to do that? Was this quite a unique forum? Are you doing that at other fashion shows? Are there key times of the year that you get that opportunity, or was this quite unique to have that chance?
It's unique to have so many in one place where you could actually find time to talk to each other. I think in between shows at Fashion Week, it's rare that all the retailers would come together. I've been quite lucky that at the shows I've tended to get sat next to, there's a lovely guy, Simon at Harrods, and he's fabulous, and a great guy, Chris at Altair, and you'll share. And I got to know the people at Brown Thomas in Dublin through being sat at the Chloe show, and everybody was running late for the Chloe show, and so it took a bit longer. And I remember having a conversation with the then merchandise director at Brown Thomas, and got to know her really, really well. So you get to meet people in the, sometimes the strangest of places if things have overrun, or you're all waiting outside for half an hour, and you get chatting. So people are generally friendlier than you're expecting, I would say.
Yeah, so good. And I'm sure you've had some really interesting, powerful conversations. And I'm sure our listeners would love to have been a fly on the wall during that whole forum playing out. Well, but based on that, let's talk about the state of retail and how you feel the Australian fashion industry is going. We're operating in more challenging and uncertain times at the moment. So, from your perspective, and even, fresh off the back of having those types of conversations with other global retailers, how do you see Australia trading, I guess, in the global scheme of retail? And then, of course, David Jones within that whole retail landscape right now?
In all fairness, I always feel like we fare a little bit better than the rest of the world. When we think things are bad, it always feels like things are much worse there.
Yes.
But also it goes in cycles and it goes in territories. So, there'll be times where someone will say, well, the US is booming. We recently had, Japan was booming, absolutely booming, certainly still for luxury. And that was holding up, a lot of what was happening still in luxury there, when everybody else was globally really starting to struggle with luxury and having to pivot from there. So I think the thing is, look after your own territory is my thoughts. Take from them what you can. Obviously you can share learning, share brands, what's trending, etc. But I think just focus on what's happening in your own back door. And that also means not looking all the time at competitors here. It's like your customer, your reason for being. And what we can do at David Jones is probably the thing I stay most focused on is every day, am I and my team doing the right thing to give the customer the right products? And a lot of the times you can find that surprisingly things can perform pretty well when you really stay true to giving the customer what they want. So even though things seem tough at the moment, we've had huge success in certain categories, like denim has been fantastic for us. There's still a lot of Australian designer brands, including Alame, that are very, very successful for us, and staple brands like Zimmermann and Scanlon and Theodore that stay very, very stable within our store. So I think just those partnerships and relationships, if you maintain them well through good times and bad, the stability can stay with you. And I think that you've just got to make sure that you can move. If one brand's not working, then grow another brand. If, we saw it probably best during COVID, where, all of the designer shoe brands all started doing designer sneakers and we all bought them. And then the second COVID was off, they were doing 10 centimeter heels and everybody bought them. And I think it's just that speed to respond, but also the respect that you show brands when they're performing and the respect
Yeah.
that we show brands when it's not quite their moment, because that can always come back. And I think the thing that we've tried to do is to make sure that we maintain really positive relationships in everything that is in our control, with our brands, and show them that they are valued and support them when things are difficult, and be very transparent on how we can work together.
Yeah, yeah, amazing. I guess, you have to be ready to pivot, right, and get that balance right, depending on what the landscape's looking like. You've mentioned some amazing brands there that are performing well, and denim is still as strong as it has been for some time now, which is great to see that longevity in that category. Is there anything that surprised you, Bridget? Is there anything that you thought, okay, this is the state of the world's not great at the moment, economic crisis, cost of living crisis, all the things being thrown at us? Was there anything that surprised you in terms of what is working and what isn't, in terms of the way that you had planned for now and the upcoming seasons?
I think that when we find that things are not working with brands, it can tend to be internal, where they've got things going on in their own businesses or changes of strategy, etc. That we either need to kind of work with them through
Yeah.
and do it. But what surprises me, especially here in Australia, is even when things are bad, she still wants a heel and she still wants a dress. And so that reason, we're very lucky to be a department store that we can pull together a choice of occasion dressing in head to toe. So,
Yeah.
whether she's not only buying the dress from us, but the footwear, and we'll soon launch a bridal gallery on our shoe floor. So we knew that she was coming to us to buy bridal shoes. We're making her look everywhere, and we're actually going to curate that for her now in a bridal store. So that's how we're responding to the fact that regardless of what's going on at the moment, there's still occasions happening. People are still getting married. How do we make it easier for the customer to get the best experience in David Jones when they are doing these events, and they want to come to us specifically for these really special moments? So I think it's just the way that we focus on moving with where the customer is, but staying true to the customer.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely love that. I'd love to dive a little bit deeper into customer insights in terms of the way that you are responding across product and categories. How does David Jones lean into gathering that data from customers, synthesizing that data and applying it? What's the relationship like with the customer? Is it through forums and surveys, or a combination of?
But we've got a customer insights team who do a great job. But also, when we relaunched our loyalty last year, that was really to enrich the data that we had. So having a more loyal customer and a repeat customer. So we're still quite fortunate that we're building on the knowledge of this customer that we can start to share with brands, or we can make sure we do better personalization to our customer. So there's still room to grow with the data that we are actually getting. We very much know who is our core customer, and we're very lucky. We've got what we call a segment A customer, and she is affluent and she's 45 plus and she loves brands. So we know that, but we know we need a new younger customer all the time coming through. And to be honest, I task my team with what's right for me in that segment, and compared to what's right for a younger customer who wants to shop. We want to get somebody who's going to shop with us right the way from their 20s, and what's affordable, and how do you offer value to that customer if David Jones is a more premium department store. And that's really why with brands like Skims, we were delighted to get Skims, because it's actually quite ageless as a brand. We had the 20-year-old, the 50-year-old, the 70-year-old, and everybody enjoyed that brand. But it did start to bring that opportunity of capturing data on a younger customer, and then what would she buy? We've got a youth area where my team do a great job of bringing in really great new cool brands like Babiche and Benny, and they're onto them the whole time.
Yeah.
What I love is just hearing about the new brands that they're seeing that are hot and going after them. And so we tend to use the customer data to know which locations that customer can be in, we use the customer data to know which segments are increasing and what brands they're buying. And so how do we maximize that? And also which segments are slowing down with us and how do we retain them? So I think, like everybody, and as all of technology and AI really starts to come into businesses, and it's about how we use that technology. So we try to do it, but at the end of the day, I think the thing about buying that can be frustrating to people who haven't got that skill is a lot of it is a gut feel of, do you love that? How do you curate it? What's been your take on that brand? And with all the data in the world,
Yeah.
you can't replace that, really.
Is it still the status quo that as a buyer, you either bought too much or you didn't buy enough? Does anyone actually nail it, Bridget? Is there that sweet spot where you're like, that was a perfect buy, perfect sell through? Or are we still either here or here?
To be honest, I think that's what some of the data and analytics has been really great with bringing. There's a company now that we use that I know a lot of brands are using, but it's been fantastic, called Style Arcade.
Yeah, love Style Arcade.
And so they've been somebody, as a tech company, they just brought something that was really delivered on what the planning, buying team want. And it's probably been something that all of our store teams are now enjoying because they can also access it. So I think from a getting the right buy, technology can really help. It can support the width that you buy, the size curves that you buy, the sell-through. And it can tell you, I think, what we try and do, though, is you've got bestsellers, you've got worst sellers, you bought too much, too little. It isn't really about that. It's how fast you get back into the good and how quickly you get rid of what's not worked. And I think that my team have really enjoyed that that's the way that we operate. Like, we're all going to get some winners. We're all going to get hopefully a lot less things that don't work. But the real way of working for us is how quickly you move through and turn a worst seller to cash so that we can get open to buy for something we want. And I think that that's helped the speed at which we work and the agility with which we work, as we try and make sure we do it at pace.
It's so important. It sounds so simple, but not often applied in business. So you said quickly get out of what's not working so that you can quickly reinvest and get back into what the winning styles or categories are. But unfortunately, we do see a lot of businesses hold on to that legacy stock and try and push it and work through it. But you're saying if you see that it's not working, the sales trajectory is not there, get out and get back into something that's working well. Sounds simple, but sometimes it's something that's kind of overlooked in many businesses.
Look, it's not, none of what we do is that simple, but I do think that that's where tech has helped, and it's really highlighted what's good and what's not good and return on investment. And I also think that we were fortunate that over the years, we really looked at our level of clearance stock and where it had been. And historically, it's been way too high. And then that stops your sell-through of newness. It distracts the customer with when you're bringing in new. And we really shifted the dial, especially actually in all of our categories. And when we took some really hard decisions in the past on how to make sure we got rid of that clearance stock. And that really taught us now is to be brave enough to get rid of it when you need to get rid of it, turn it and get back into something new. So it's not something that comes easy, but I think once you've learned the lesson and once you see the benefit, and we really need to support brands to sell at full price, which is a really difficult thing to do when the economy can be against you, or the interest rates, or all the different things. So it's easy to fall back into discounting. And that's where we really value our exclusive brands, where we can partner with them, try and retain full price as much as possible, not compete on price in the market. And if something's working, great. But if it's not working, then you can say to the brand, we're in it together. And that's when the discounting can kind of you're aligned on the discounting.
Yeah, and it has to be a partnership, doesn't it? If you want longevity, I guess, it's got to be a partnership where you work
Yeah.
really closely together on those solutions. So you've mentioned a couple of things, like perhaps, internal operations can sometimes disrupt what's happening with trade. But from your point of view, what do you feel separates brands that consistently perform within David Jones from those that perhaps can feel challenged at times? And what is it that you and your team are looking for? Like, are there any glaring gaps? I'm sure that, you might be sport for choice because it's not just Australia, it's globally that you're sourcing and curating brands. But for our listeners, are there any insights that could help steer them into the right direction?
Look, when we bring on new brands, lots of brands approach us, and lots of times we spot something, the buyers spot something. There's no hierarchy on who introduces a great brand to David Jones. It's kind of like we celebrate anybody sending us something and saying, take a look at this brand. What you then find is you do need to have the gap, or it needs to be a better version of what you've already got, better value or a better commercial outcome, to be honest. So, and if somebody just says, I love it, I really love it, I really believe in this brand, then we normally find open to buy, and we certainly find space. So I think the other thing is you can quite quickly get a feel whether you can work well with the brand, whether they're set up, the way that they culturally work. And I say that from a longevity, we try and partner with brands that are consistent within their own businesses, that don't go through a lot of change of leadership, change of creative directors, of designers, of where they're sourcing, of what they do. And that's probably the successful brands have that consistency in their designers, in their leadership team, in where they're operating. And you respect the way that they're running their own business outside of David Jones, and how you can both operate and get the best for each other's brands. So it's definitely a lot of trust, collaboration, and respect for brand.
Absolutely. And how are you doing that research? So is your team all over social media? Obviously, they're traveling. How do they come across these new brands? Where do they get the insights from? What does that kind of typically look like when you're reaching out and making that first connection?
I would say it can come from anywhere. It can come from somebody being on, looking at industry publications like WWD or Business of Fashion or Business of Beauty when it's beauty. So it's some from there, some from international trips, some from, I had dinner with the CEO and this is my favorite brand and can you look into it? And it's still a winner, or, just I feel like the buying teams are on, everybody's on different social media, different brands that they're watching different shows. So, I'm lucky I've got children now who early 20s, so stay relevant. I do know what off campus is. I do see a bit of Love Island. I am, they're actually done a great job of making sure that I still know what's relevant to different age groups. So I think, and that's what my team are looking at. They're watching those shows. They're going to those festivals. They've got weddings. They've got graduations, all of these life events and everything that you see around you. It can come from literally anywhere, to be honest with you. I was recently at a health retreat and sat for dinner the first night with a girl. She's 30 years old, entrepreneur, absolutely incredible. And we are now going to stock her brand of resort wraps, howling wraps, that we had a gap. She literally does a couple of different brands. She does a creatine thing. She does something for menopause, and she does these robes, which are howling robes, really for going to the beach. And literally from there, she stayed in touch. And so I try not to, when I've made a connection with somebody like that, be personally involved in the next stage. So I literally pass it on then to my head of buying. And she met with her, and it's going to 25 stores straight away. So, and that's literally just how it happened. I
Yeah.
would never have met her under any other circumstance, really. But it was really important that my head of buying and the buyer believed in the brand and that
Yeah.
all the commercials could be met. And she was able to deliver to a department store on time,
Yeah.
at the right margin.
Pretty amazing. Very organic chance meeting. Who would have thought? You're off on a retreat. See, I'm sure you never really do switch off, Bridget. And but then there's been such a positive outcome for both of you. I mean, I'm sure she was absolutely, over the moon with that opportunity to even speak to your team. But what a great kind of organic, authentic way to kind of kick off business. So yeah, I guess as you said, it can come from anywhere, can't it? And I love that you've got your family, you've got the younger gen around you also, making sure that you're fully up to date. I think we all need that. I get the same from my sons as well. Now, I'd love to talk more about social media because you have been showing up consistently on socials recently. I don't know if you feel like you are showing up consistently, but I feel like you're in my feed constantly and you definitely stop the scroll. Now, historically, retailers have kind of sat behind the brands, but we're seeing you and your team at David Jones appearing in content, including your Trend Talk series. What role do you feel storytelling, expertise, and that human connection are playing in modern retail, Bridget?
So I actually have probably been the opposite of social media for a number of years. And, I've been fortunate to go to some incredible events and fashion shows, etc. And I actually never used that on my own Instagram because I didn't feel like this was about me. I work for David Jones and my role is to represent David Jones, not to build not to build my own social media. So I was probably going completely the opposite way, but very aware of what happens in social media, watching from celebrity to influencers to, the now KOLs, key opinion leaders. And all of that is super important, but also watching a lot of other companies, Net-a-Porter, Sherlock, all of them, it was kind of authentic, just women talking about what they liked, and it felt more real. And for me, it felt more authentic. So
Yeah.
I was then asked to cover off some of Fashion Week, and I've done it a little bit in the past, but not as much as you've just seen. So, and I was like, look, we've got younger buyers who can do this. We've got, there's lots of people who can do it. It actually doesn't need to be about me doing it, but two things. One, we did that. We did do it for Fashion Week, and the response was good because there was a bit of a response of, oh, it's nice to see somebody who knows what they're talking about, just generally talking about it because it's not scripted whatsoever. Yeah. I promise you, it's not. And even somebody laughed and asked me how we did the Alame filming, and I said it's literally my phone. We just handed it to somebody and said, "Do you mind just recording this?" So there was no equipment, nothing except a very old mobile phone, to be honest with you. So we did it and it got a good response. I do think that, there's more faces to it. We'll share it with the team. But the other thing that happened was we had our now new CEO, Erica. She walked the floor with me and she was like, oh my God, you've got this incredible knowledge of what all the brands do, where they're from. And our customers don't know anything about this. We should be sharing this with the customer.
Yeah.
So that was also a kind of, all right, then we are privileged to have the knowledge and to have some background or where we bought the brands or why we're excited about them. And so that's why I've been doing it, that if we can share that with the customer and they can feel a better connection to the brands and what we do at David Jones and a more real, a more real collaboration with them, then that's part of my job now.
Yeah, well, I love that it's part of your job because, as I said, we've really enjoyed seeing you consistently show up and just, the knowledge that you've got to share. As you said, I didn't know if it was scripted or not, but if it's not, you're doing an amazing job because it comes across as very knowledgeable. It definitely influences because there's been a few things I'm like, oh, I need to go and purchase that. So you're definitely getting the influencer part down pat. But it is organic and it is authentic. And I think that's what we really enjoy about the team Times content. So can't wait to see more of that roll out. Now, Bridget, I'd love to touch on mindset. Building a career at the level you have requires sustained energy, adaptability, and resilience. What mindset routines and support systems have helped you navigate your career, and what keeps you grounded? You mentioned earlier you'd been on a health retreat. So, yeah, love any insights around how you manage your energy.
So what keeps me grounded is I'm one of 6 kids. So there's never, you've never, everyone's the favorite. So yeah, there's always been grounded. Your kids keep you grounded, your family keep you grounded. You know, my kids are not overly into fashion. They could dabble in and out and get a bit more interested. But at the end of the day, you're your mom. And rarely, I was in fact, at one fashion show looked very fortunately at Louis Vuitton, and my child only realized because she was watching Zendaya and saw me a couple of rows behind. So if not, she would not have even, like, mum's in Paris, not interested. So there's definitely the grounding thing is good. I'd say I'm very good at keeping active. I exercise probably every day of the week, even if it's just a walk, but I do a class called Barry's 4 times a week. I run the 440, which is a run club in Bronte here in Sydney that is done for mental health. And I do a bit of swimming in the ocean here. I'd call it dipping in the ocean. Swimming would be an exaggeration. So I do lots of those. I do red light saunas, massages, all of those things for health and well-being. And, you know, pretty good on having a vegan diet, which can be very annoying when you're out at dinners and you're always the vegan. So I do look after myself that way, because it is it's a busy job. It can be, there's a lot of people involved, a lot of emotional sides of what we do. A lot of brands, you know, destiny is in our hands. When David Jones is going really, really well, we all benefit. But there's times when, times are tough, and that affects a lot of people. And I have maybe a pretty good understanding of the effect that we can have on other businesses, and try with the best that I can do to make sure that we always do the right thing.
So important. Got that responsibility to self and others around you. Has there been a mentor or even a book, a podcast, or anything you've done in terms of leadership development over the journey that has been meaningful and impactful for you?
Look, I read a few of the books. I'll do that. I've probably just had some really great people that I've worked for, more than mentors. I've had coaches and things like that in the past. But I've just worked with some great leaders and who taught me things. They've taught me how to manage people, how to still have a bit of fun and not, enjoy being in the office, and the importance of looking after your team and caring about them and their family, where they're at in their careers, etc. So I think it's been more, I've watched and observed good leaders and bad leaders. And I think you learn as much from the bad leaders as the good leaders. But what I've learned from the good leaders is that I've really always enjoyed my job underneath them, even when it was really hard. I've always still loved what I was doing. And those leaders that can inspire you to really push through the hard times as well as the good times have probably set me up for, being around for this long.
Well, it certainly served you well. There's always something to take away, right? Challenge or something amazing. There's always something to learn, isn't there? But speaking of great leaders, David Jones has recently entered a new chapter with the appointment of Erica Birchhold as CEO, first female CEO that the company has had in its history. So looking ahead, Bridget, what excites you most about the future of David Jones and the broader Australian fashion industry?
So I think with any change of leadership, there's going to be something new that has to happen. And with respect to Scott, my previous CEO, he did a lot of transformation, and that was hard transformation, at times when, the economy was difficult, etc., a lot going on. But we've kind of done a lot of that. I think what this new leadership will bring is really probably making tough calls on you're transformed. How do you make a business great? How do you make tough decisions and stay focused on maybe doing less but more with that, and be hyper focused on what makes a business truly great, not just the people. But so I think that this new leadership, and I know leadership should be a complete contrast to the previous one. It's like strategies. They shouldn't just pendulum swing. You need to evolve. There's good foundations there. We were working to be well set up for this phase of what we're calling our Inspire 30 strategy. So I think that it will just be a different take, a different focus, and and a decision on how we operate that way. It can be a new change, well set up from where Scott had left it, really.
I love that. I love the way that you've shared that. And in terms of the synergy, in terms of the change of leadership, if we were to fast forward 12 months down the track and you could wave your magic wand, how would we see David Jones show up in the retail landscape?
Look, I think from our store experiences, store services, we do really well with services. We've got great beauty services, great fashion services. You can get a denim styling session. So I think more people would know about what services we've got. More customers would be satisfied with the service that they've had in a David Jones store. They would have found the brand that they want, because we've built out the most wanted brands quickly enough to service more stores and more customers. And they'd be having a great experience on our online store. And probably most that they're enjoying our loyalty. We've got a fantastic loyalty scheme that I'm getting the benefits of all the time. It's definitely rewarding for me, as it should be or will be for our customers. So I think that we would just be in 12 months' time reaping the benefits of all the hard work that's gone on over the past 5 years.
Yeah, amazing. What a great vision to have. Bridget, thank you so much for joining me. You are an iconic woman in leadership in our industry, supporting and working for an iconic retailer. So thank you for sharing those insights behind the scenes of your career and at David Jones today. We love everything that you do, and we can't wait to see what you do next.
Thank you. That's super kind, and thanks for asking me.
Thank you for listening to Fashion Business Mindset. If this conversation resonated, I'd love to stay connected. At Fashion Equipped, I work as a strategic growth partner to fashion founders and leadership teams, helping them bring clarity to complex decisions, to strengthen structure, and build more profitable, resilient businesses. You can head to fashionequipped.com.au to explore our advisory services and to join the Monthly Edit, a curated monthly briefing sharing industry shifts, strategic thinking, and practical ideas to help you continue to move your business forward. If social is more your space, you'll find us at Instagram at Fashion Equipped and at Fashion Business Mindset. Wherever you are on your journey, my intention is simple: to help you work more strategically, lead more confidently, and build a successful fashion business. If you're enjoying the conversations this season, I invite you to leave a review. This really does help the podcast to reach those that can benefit from it. I'll see you in the next episode.
This is a Guide Your Light Network production, creating podcasts with purpose.